I've got a very, very important policy maker joining me right here on Niti now. Amitabh Kant, the man who's got a finger in every policy pie in New Delhi, the CEO of Niti Aayog, joins us right here on this channel on Budget Morning with his take on what the union budget could entail. And I know you've spent many an hours in the Prime Minister's office and in the Finance Ministry giving your suggestions and conveying to him what Indian industry and investors with stakeholders in the Indian economy want. Thanks very, very much, Mr. Kant, for being with us live right here on Budget Morning. An important policy maker joins us on the show right now. I'm going to start to you about the context of this budget. This budget is rather different. The backdrop is largely demonetization and a lot of expectation out there on what it will do to revive growth, because everything set aside, growth has been scarred. What can the budget do given this backdrop to revive growth at this point in time?
Yeah, so when demonetization happened, even if India's growth gets impacted by a quarter or 2 quarters, I think we need to take a long-term vision of India. India is a country, it's not a corporate. A corporate should worry about a quarterly result. The CEO is accountable for that. But as a country, we need to take a long-term picture over a 3-decade period, and it's important that we formalize our informal economy. And the government has attempted to ensure that the black money doesn't remain out of the system. It becomes a part of this integral part of the system, and therefore if your aim is to become a $10 trillion economy, it's important to converge and integrate the informal and the formal economy. But going forward, it's important that we ensure that the digital payments play a critical role. You can't have India's growth taking place with 95% of the personal consumption expenditure being in cash, with 85% of the transaction being in cash, and with such a meager number of people being as taxpayers. So once you formalize that, your total resources being available to you should increase dramatically for the government to be able to spend resources on education, health, nutrition, these sectors. That's important. Now, pushing for digital economy requires us several challenges. There are several challenges. One is the challenge of mindset. The second is the challenge of good technology. And thirdly is the challenge of creating the right market forces so that people move towards digital payment rather than going for cash. I think we are trying to address all three of them. Extension, mass communication for the change of mindsets. We have brought in the new Bheem app. We are moving towards the app pay, as the Prime Minister has said. And of course, we have provided several incentives for payment by digital mode. So over a period of time, I see a big dramatic shift towards digital payment in India. No other country is poised towards this better than India is.
I do buy your point about digital payments, and I think that's a point well made, especially if you want to disincentivize cash. But I think the larger expectation is, will this be a stimulus budget? Because India was a consumption story, demand has taken a hit, but the counter argument to that is, are you going to be overloading demand in an economy where the effect of demonetization may in fact be transitory? And in that sense, will you add to pricing pressure? These are very two delicate arguments. How will you balance these two out?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for the government is really to create jobs and look at labor-intensive sectors, look at textiles, for which a package has already been announced, look at food processing, look at leather, look at gems and jewelry. I mean, these are sectors which create large jobs. Look at construction. These are sectors which create large jobs, and my view is that the government will try and kickstart the economy, but also look at job creation in a very big way. And therefore, the focus will be on job creation. But essentially, outlays need to move in very big dramatic manner towards infrastructure creation. I think we need a huge emphasis on railways. We need far greater amount of roads to be made. We need to push not merely the government expenditure part of it, but to create an ecosystem where private sector can come in and play a bigger role. I mean, one of the big things is about privatization of getting private sector players to invest in railway stations, for instance. I mean, we need to ensure that a lot of resources get into these kind of projects which will kickstart construction, which will kickstart job creation, which will actually push for giving a big momentum to the railway sector.
Mr. Kant, you're not just a big hit on growth, but you're also a big bull on spending. And I'm going to ask you this question. Has the time come perhaps to look away from fiscal consolidation? A lot of argument has been made on that front. Many people believe being fixated with the fix is perhaps a legacy issue, needs to be done away with. What do you weigh? What do we need to do right now? Can we afford to defer fiscal consolidation at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, irrespective of global trends, irrespective of the protectionism, my belief is that the government has to be extremely fiscally responsible. We must send out a message that we are a responsible nation as far as the budget is concerned. And I am a great believer that while government must spend on infrastructure, it must demonstrate to the world that it believes in the broad principles that it has laid down earlier of keeping the fiscal deficit at 3%. I'm a disciplinarian on that count. We've got the NK Singh's report already with the government. The government will have some clarity on what kind of stretching it can do. But my belief is that this should be a very disciplined budget. It must send out a message to the rest of the world that fiscally we are very responsible.
It's an important voice and an objective view in New Delhi that says that you should stick on the path of fiscal consolidation. Amitabh Kant, you've got a finger in every policy pie, like I keep saying. But I'm going to ask you a question that really impacts viewers like all of us. The tax to GDP ratio is dismally low, 1.5 to 2 percentage point. The question really is, has the time come for lower taxes and in turn increase volumes? I know you're going to say that's the prerogative of the finance minister, but what's your own view on this?
So, the finance minister has already announced this in the previous year's budget about bringing down the corporate tax to 25%. And he's talking about doing away with all the exemptions and over a period of time bringing it down to 25%. So the move has already been accelerated. And I think we'll see more action on this front in terms of greater predictability, stability, and lowering of the tax regime.
So one last question before we let you go this budget morning, Mr. Kant, and that has to do with what is keeping markets hanging, and that is the fear of LTCG being reintroduced or that definition being reviewed at this stage. Do you believe the time has come to tax markets, a case that the Prime Minister made, and then, of course, North Bloc did backtrack on this one?
Yeah, no, but I think without talking about that, because that's an issue on which finance minister, if he has to say, will talk about it. But I think there are several areas where the government has already taken action, which we need to push. And the government has already consciously decided to keep itself out of actual business and disinvest in several public sector units. Niti has already made radical recommendations. I think the government will push for that. These are areas on which you can raise resources. I think the government should also push for reverse BOT. It has developed projects, it has developed airports, it has developed roads, etc., where it has already created the assets, where revenue flows are coming in through tolls, etc. It should allow better operation and maintenance through the private sector and use those resources to invest in newer infrastructure assets and give a bigger push to the economy. So reverse BOT can be a big game.
Some of those recommendations to sell those sick or the not so sick PSUs will actually come in from you at the Niti Aayog. But thanks very much for sparing time this budget morning and joining us.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.